Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome. And today we're going to be going over some tips for people that need guidance in building, and we're going to go over some of the best tips that I can give you for building a vehicle from ground up. So when building a vehicle, you obviously want to make sure that it's functional and that you have a decent amount of armor and you have all of your parts protected to the best of your ability. So what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of from beginner to advanced. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're just going to get a frame put together here. So say some lightweight frames, which I will go over in a second, because they are a big part of the building process. What frames you choose, and if you choose to use normal frames, the heavy ones, or these lighter weight ones. In general, it's up to you, but you may find it harder to make a build to its fullest ability with heavy frames. So what we have here is what I call an open frame. An open frame helps with putting different modules such as explosive bits and generators and whatnot underneath. So like this ammo pack here, for example, or this big G generator. There we go. And you don't necessarily always have to put these under there. There's different scenarios where you would be better off putting them somewhere like in the back, maybe stack them up and stuff like that, and then you can armor them up in the back, which I'll show you guys later. But generally, this kind of build here where you have your exploding bits underneath in your frame. This is best if you're using a wheeled build. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab up some wheels and a cabin. Kind of did that backwards, but let's those real quick. I usually put the STs in the front and the non-STs in the back. Or in the middle. It depends. If I'm running 6 wheels, so like let's say I had 4 chain wheel STs, I'd have 2 of those in the front, 2 in the back, and then I'd put these in the middle, like so. Just to give my car a little bit better maneuverability and handleability. Because sometimes if you have all ST wheels, the car will tend to slide a bit more, as to where if you have at least a couple non-ST wheels, the car will handle a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get our cabin. Let's use the Torero for example. So as you can see, the exploding bits underneath are pretty okay. They're protected for the most part. But something else you can do on a build like this, for example. So one of the most common parts to use is something like this, strengthened slope or APC side part. If you do have these, what you can do is come here and flip it. Maybe make it symmetrical. I don't know, I'm pretty anal about that myself, so that's what I would do. Do something like that, maybe add an extra armor piece on the back part, so maybe something like an APC side door, you know, just something like that. That way it has a little extra armor protecting it in case you get shot in the side or something ends up underneath, you know, whatever. So that's building tip number 1. So number 2, we'll go over it. It'll be a quick one. So we'll just use the current build as an example. So let me see. All right, so this is coming back to what I said earlier. So my preferred setup when I do wheeled builds, which is pretty rare nowadays, but when I do wheeled builds, I prefer usually to have 6 wheels. That's my comfort zone. I feel like it's a perfect balance between steering and control over the vehicle. And what I'll do is, like I said earlier, put 2 ST wheels in the back, the non-STs in the middle, and 2 more STs in the front. And we'll test drive it. So see how I can control this pretty well. If I want to do some donuts and still be a little bit slidey, I can. You can drift still. Tap it and you can still drift pretty good, but you have pretty good control over the vehicle with a couple of the non-ST wheels. So yeah, pretty solid. All right, so the next tip that I want to go over, we're going to move this cabin back a little bit. And, for example, we'll, yeah, I think we're fine. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over weapon placement next. This one might be a lengthy section, so if you already know a good amount about this, you can skip to the next part. Well, we're going to go over weapon placement. Proper weapon placement. Because I see a lot of people in the game, even still, that they'll mount stuff on normal armor pieces or weak armor pieces that'll get shut off really easy. And they wonder why their guns are going bye-bye real quick. So what I want to go over is that. And we're just going to use these, like a couple of cannons, for example, since they're pretty common. So one place to mount is on top of your cabin. It's a great way to mount. And for example, with these cannons, they are like the perfect size where you can mount 2 of them right next to each other on top of the cabin. You could do something like this. Obviously, the recoil is going to make this build do a wheelie because it is really lightweight right now. So, but yeah, point being, guns will stay on much longer if they're mounted to a much more durable surface, or something with damage or bullet, explosive, whatever, pass through. We're just going to call them pass through parts. So if you have pass through parts, a good one is the buggy floor, or the gun mount is pretty good, has a good amount of durability. Or there's some new ones in the game too that came out a while back. Let's see if I can find them right here. The elbow pieces, so left and right elbow, have also decent durability, and they have 90% pass through. Power score is something to keep into consideration though, because these do have a much higher power score than a lot of the other pieces besides gun mount. Gun mount, I believe, has 150. We'll go back and look. Okay, 133. But point being, you can take like a couple of buggy floors or something and mount it to this too. And you can do a little armor in front. So say we might be able to use like, yeah, so we can use something like this. It's not super durable, but our cannons can sit on top of there and we can still shoot while having them on a decent, you know, surface, a pass-through surface. So yeah, wow, I hit my generator. Okay, so when it comes to the pass-through parts, you'll know that they're pass-through. If you look at them, you can highlight them, whether it be on your vehicle or in your garage, or not in your garage, but in your inventory here. You can hover over the part and you'll see under the power score says features, and then there's a little bullet icon and it says 90%. That means it has bullet pass through. And the same thing can be said for a lot of the other parts. Again, the elbows, I'll go back to those. You can look at these. They also have pass through. So that's really good. It won't help a lot against explosions. Explosions are, well, they're powerful. But you can always stack multiples of these too. So say you want to do one per gun just to make sure that if one gets blown off, the other one doesn't go with it. That's always a very good idea as well. So another very popular way to mount your guns, and probably better than even mounting them on pass-through parts, is to just mount them directly to your frame itself, which is another really good thing you can do. So now that we have that covered, let's get another cannon. So now you see something like this, or another way you could do it. Let's take two cannons, mount them on top like that, and then mount one right there. So let's go check it out in the test drive. Obviously we flipped again, we're very lightweight. But you can see that we have pretty good placement for our weapons. So let's start adding some weight to it. We're gonna start off with a bumper piece, maybe something that you guys already have unlocked. So let's see this. I know you guys get this early on. So we're gonna use actually two of these. So we got two of those, and we got our cannon here. And we got two up here. So let's test it out. So our little build here in the exhibition, in the garage, this is the same build we're using. Now let's shoot it like we did last time, just like kind of like right in the center. And let's see if that front cannon gets blown off. There we go. So let's take a closer look at the damage we've done. As you can see, we knocked off the bumpers, but the frame itself and the gun are still intact. So that is one reason why you want to use some kind of bumper piece in the front. That guy's got the cannons. I actually want to get the mammoths. Anyways, I digress. So then we can shoot it again. Look at that. So it could take up to 2 hits before it got knocked off. So that's a solid way to mount some bumper pieces, and that's pretty much it for mounting. I mean, you can also do something like what I did on my recent hover. Certain cannons, like these, can be mounted from the side. I hate not having things symmetrical, so we're going to move that up to make it symmetrical. So you can also run a build kind of like this. Whoops. We have a cannon maybe in the front mounted to the frames, a couple on the sides. You could add armor to the sides of the cannons also. We can kind of run a little something like this. Look at them hits that the car's taken. Knocked off some wheels, still got the gun though. But yeah, so pretty nifty creations you can come up with that are pretty durable. And another benefit to having, if you're using a durable weapon like cannons on your vehicle, having one in front of your cabin can also help so your cabin doesn't take as much damage. Your gun will take the damage for it first. So next thing I want to talk about is properly choosing the parts for your vehicle and what kind of vehicle you want to use. Early on, this is going to be a little bit difficult because you won't have a whole lot to work with. You're kind of going to be using what you get from engineers, and that's pretty much about it. Or later on down the road, you'll be able to choose a different faction as kind of like your secondary faction. So like right now I'm using Steppenwolves. I would like to use Dawn's Children, but I have to get Nomads to level 10 first, which is probably a good idea to equip that. Anyways, but each faction comes with different parts that you can get, so you can kind of look at them ahead of time and just see what's, you know, what's available. So like for example, Nomads here has a lot of medium weight parts. Bumpers are pretty heavy, but other than that, the regular armor pieces are medium weight. And then you got ones like the Steppenwolves that I had equipped, that's very heavy armor. Same with Scavengers. Lunatics is lightweight armor. Dawn's Children is medium. Fire Starters is lightweight. So you can go to these and you can just like click on all under equipment and you can look at all the armor you can get at what level. And one thing I suggest a lot of people do is that they save their engineer badges, which I don't like how they changed them. You have to be in a clan now to be able to do these challenges, but there's a good handful of clans out there that are open that you can just randomly join, and just being in the clan alone, you'll be able to do these challenges, whatever they may be, except for these ones down here. These ones you have to be like a certain rating for clan confrontation, and it can take a while to be able to get them done. But what I recommend people doing is save up your badges, especially if you're a new player, say under level 20 or level 20 or under. Save up your badges, and then you can come over to the badge exchange and you can exchange them for armor pieces from past battle passes. And there's anything here from light armor up to heavy. There's bumper pieces, there's pass-through pieces. I mean, you name it, it's in there. There's a good list here. That's what I recommend you do, because then you can gain parts along with your additional factions. Again, that would be like Scavengers, Steppenwolves, whatever. You can rack up a good amount of decent armor in a short amount of time. If you rely on engineers armor, you could be in for some trouble because it's not the best armor. There are some decent pieces in there that people use frequently, but a lot of it's not very good. So you're going to want to definitely get better armor at some point or another, and this is a really, really good way to do it. So the next thing I want to talk about is the more advanced section of building. So here I have my build from the previous video. It's my horseshoe hover autocannon build, and you can see it's much, much more advanced and different than the little wheel build that we just messed around with. So when it comes to building hovers, especially horseshoe hovers, you want to have a lot of spaced armor. You don't want to have a lot of stacked armor. Stacked armor is just going to get blown through very fast. Having spaced armor is very good and mitigates a lot of the damage that would otherwise go to your other components, like your cabin or your guns or your generator or your hovers or whatever. So what is spaced armor? Spaced armor is exactly how it sounds. It is armor pieces that you have that are spaced out, whether it be 1 block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks apart. It's spaced out from other pieces of armor or components or whatever. And what this does is it helps to where explosive shells hitting your vehicle. So let's say, for example, you get hit in the side, like right here. It'll take this piece of armor, but more than likely it won't take this one, or it won't even get to your cabin. So they got to get through all these goodies on the side here to get to your cabin or your guns. And that goes for this side too, even though it looks a lot different, but same thing here. They got to get through this piece generally to get to your hover, or any of your other armor pieces in between. Very, very good for explosive damage. Something like cannons or missiles or whatever. Now you might see on this build, I don't really have a whole lot under here. It's just kind of a big wide open area. This is called a horseshoe build, and that's just due to the shape of the build itself. So we're not going to go over too much about the horseshoe build or the way that I do it or anything like that, but you can see under here, again, there's not a whole lot, and I would do this like pretty much on all my hover builds, horseshoe or normal or whatever hover it is, or even a spider build. I would build it pretty much similar with nothing underneath, because if somebody rams you and they get underneath you and say you got an ammo pack under there or a generator, you know, something that's explosive, if they ram you and get under you and hit that, that's going to explode, and that's going to do some decent damage to you, and it could potentially just turn you into a nugget, depending on how much you have going on underneath. So, in cases like this with spider builds, and especially hovers, we have all our components back here, especially our generator. Generator is not super well hidden, but it's hidden enough, and it's protected by a couple armor pieces on the side, the hover itself, and an armor piece up here. Now you can pretty much put these in whatever layout you want in the back, but all my goodies are in the back on this. Again, because if somebody rams you and gets underneath, this stuff is probably going to go with it. And with a hover or a spider, you're strafing almost non-stop. So when you're in battle, you're pretty much always going to be facing the enemies. So having your back exposed a little bit like this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as you keep your front towards the enemy, or even your sides. So what do I mean by that? So if you're getting shot at, you can, and it's much easier to do on a mouse and keyboard, but if you're getting shot at and say you notice they're aiming for your guns or whatever, you can quickly whip around like this and strafe and make them hit your side real quick, especially if they're using something like cannons or missiles. It's very easy to do. You see them shoot it off, quickly whip, get your side turned to them, and your side will be hit instead of your back or your middle or your front. So that's a neat little tip there for you guys if you plan on using hovers. And I almost always recommend using a bit of spaced armor with hovers and spiders, regardless of the power score, what level you are. It just helps, and it's a decent advanced tip that you can use early on. And you don't only have to use spaced armor for hovers and spiders. You can also use spaced armor for wheeled builds as well. A lot of people are starting to do that. They're starting to do like little rooftop builds that I have yet to learn about myself, so I'm learning with you guys in that regard. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. And another tip I'm going to give you guys that you'll probably get to again a little bit more down the road. I prefer to use lightweight frames on almost all my builds, or a majority of lightweight frames on my builds. So for example, you can see here like almost all my frames are lightweight. I got a couple pieces like these side pieces here coming off that I have armor mounted to. But most of it is lightweight lightweight frames. That helps keep your weight limit down. It helps you more easily adjust your tonnage to your needs. And it also helps you be able to use the cabin that you want to use. So if you're using something super lightweight, for example, the Harpy cabin, which doesn't have a whole lot of mass limit, and you don't really have a good engine to put on it right now, or you don't have the energy to put an engine on, you know, using lightweight frames is very useful for these type of builds. But You can use lightweight frames on pretty much any build you wish. That's up to you if you want to do that. Just to save some mass limit, and it also improves your tonnage, like I said, so you'll be able to move faster, have a better acceleration than if you were a heavy vehicle with a lot of heavy frames. Now, how do you get these lightweight frames? That's a good question. So if we go over to Lunatics, which is one of our advanced factions, you can see at level... Whoops, that's not level 1. At level 1, you get a set of 3 for 4x4 lightweight frames. And you'll continue to get frames throughout pretty much every level. There may be a couple where you don't. But you get a bunch of lightweight frames from Lunatics. I don't know if you get any from fire starters. No, you don't. But Lunatics is going to be your faction to be able to get your lightweight frames. So as soon as you hit level 10 with engineers, I believe it's 10. I may be wrong about that. Don't quote me. But once you hit a certain level with engineers, you're able to select a second faction. And you can change these at will. So you recently saw me, I changed to Nomads. But we can go here to Lunatics. We can change that too. But I don't need them right now. I need Nomads. But you can change them anytime you want, on the fly. Doesn't matter. So if you hit level 10 and unlock, say you hit level 10 with Lunatics and you want to use fire starters to get more lightweight and medium armor, go ahead, do that right away. You don't have to wait. Used to be you had to wait 24 hours. Now you don't. So that's where you're going to get your lightweight frames from. So keep that in mind. That you're probably going to struggle at a certain point, and you're going to be using heavy frames still, and you're going to be like, man, you know, I'm using all this weight. How can I alleviate that to be able to put on better armor? Frames are going to be the best way to do that, because one thing that you keep in mind is that lightweight frames are exactly half the weight of their corresponding heavyweight or heavy frame counterparts. So if a heavy frame weighs 300 kilos, the lightweight counterpart to that is going to weigh 150 kilos. So keep that in mind. It's pretty easy math, and you can calculate that on the fly while you're building and be like, oh, this one's too heavy, so I'm gonna use this one instead. That's lightweight. So I think that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Just some pretty straightforward tips for new builders. And I hope this helped you guys out. I know I probably didn't cover everything. When it comes to building, there is a lot of stuff to go over. But I figured if I could cover the most important and commonly asked questions about building, then hopefully that'll help some people out. So that's pretty much going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And again, I hope this was helpful to at least some people out there. If you liked, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe to the channel for more. We do stuff like this all the time. And you can check out some of my other videos. Otherwise, this is Anubis Tech and Games. And I'll catch you on the next one.